Sydney and Port Adelaide to meet on Friday night. Lee Montagna and David King will be there for us. Now it's time to watch and learn. The watch list has been so good for us throughout the season. Good to see you both.
Hi, Jared.
Hello, boys.
7 straight preliminary finals.
Didn't win them all, Jared, I can tell you.
It's got a less than 50% record.
Less than
7 in a
50.
row.
Yeah. They haunt you a little bit, the prelims, I reckon.
Yep.
The grand final, at least you're in it. You have a throw at the stumps, but when you just don't quite get there, you start blaming each other. That's what happens, Jared.
And you split yours 2-2.
So, and had the full gamut. Had a close loss, a close win, and then a big blowout and a prelim and a sort of relatively easy win. So experienced it all.
All right, let's get into it. You're making the case for Port Adelaide here, Joey.
I am. We're going to try and mount a case because it seems like nobody's really giving them a chance in this preliminary final. And I heard you guys talk about it the other night, and we'll get to why maybe Port Adelaide have had success over Sydney in the past. But I thought, you know what? I think there is a case that Port Adelaide can go really close to winning this, if not winning it. There is a blueprint. And for me, there's two methods, and it is going to start by turning this game into an arm wrestle. So this year, Port Adelaide, if you look at the top line, games that total under 160 points, so sort of 80 points apiece, lower scoring games. It's actually been a great strength of Port Adelaide this year. They are 11-2 in games where they've been relatively low scoring. If it turns into a bit more of a shootout, over 160 points, that doesn't really suit Port Adelaide. They're less than 50-50. But you can see for the Swans, that has been their go most of the year. Playing in shootouts, convincingly winning. If they can get them under 100 and keep it into a tight, low-scoring game, it gives them a chance. Because people have forgotten that in the last 11 games, Port Adelaide have only conceded more than 75 points twice. But because Geelong is so fresh in their minds, but they have actually been defending really strongly. They are in really great shape. And the reason why is because they play this unique one-on-one defensive method where they take away teams' uncontested marks. So they are the number one team in the competition at denying the uncontested marks. We've spoken a lot about this, Robbo, in finals. Sydney, we know, fourth in the comp, love taking the uncontested mark and building the game up. And if they can keep Sydney to under 65, they're 10-1. Port Adelaide, the other method for them is their ball use. Because they have been a team that's gone through the corridor all year. It's been a strength. But in the final against Geelong, I think it maybe found a chink that without Houston and Farrell, they just can't throw the ball into the corridor and hope that's going to work. So watching the game back against Hawthorn, it looked to me that it was a bit of a deliberate ploy to play wider, to play a bit safer and to make it an arm wrestle, not get caught in a bit of a shootout against the Hawks. So I'll give you some examples. So these are two clips from the Geelong game the first week where they got trounced. And this has been the way they play all year. So they kick long down the line. They kick it into the corridor. This is the way they play.
It's not down the line.
No, they play into the corridor. That's what they've done most of the year. It's Ken Hinkley's method. They speak about being aggressive. But in this game, it didn't really work. And they had other kickers trying to do things that they'd been doing all season, and it backfired badly. They couldn't defend behind it, and we know what happened with the scoreboard, and they're under all sorts of pressure. So then in the Hawthorn game, it was noticeable. This kick all year has been going to the point of the square for Port Adelaide, but it was a bit more conservative. They said, no, we're going to keep this game wider. It was a high stoppage game, and what it allowed them then is it didn't allow Hawthorn to get their game going. They were able to win the ball back, and I think a scrap and playing it in a contest actually suits Port Adelaide's method. They are a contest and clearance-based team, territory team, play it in the forward half. So one more example, all season this would be opportunity. If it was Houston or Farrell, they'd be looking to bite this off through the corridor. But in this game, it was, no, let's maybe just, stick to our limits a little bit. Let's play it a bit safer. Let's get some territory, and then we can defend off the back of it because their pressure is their strength.
It's called mode footy.
That's it, the mode, and it gave them a real chance. So I can see them doing something similar to the Sydney Swans because they don't want to get caught in a shootout against Sydney. They don't want to play corridor football because that is Sydney Swans' strength. So you look at the points from turnover differential, Sydney love the turnover game. High-scoring shootout. It's not really Port Adelaide's strength. So there is a blueprint there. The other part to it, I heard you guys talk about, okay, why have Port Adelaide been able to beat Sydney so convincing? Well, I mentioned Port Adelaide's unique 1v1 man-on-man defensive method. So what they have done in the years is they have taken away Sydney's uncontested marks. So these are the last 4 meetings. You can look at Sydney's uncontested marks, only 42 in 2021, and they're some of their lowest for the year. You can see the numbers there. And that correlated to their scores. Sydney have not been able to score against Port Adelaide because they haven't been able to break through their one-on-one team defence. Their marks inside 50, they haven't taken 10 marks inside 50 in any of those 4 games. Haven't been able to get their flow the way they want to play. Port Adelaide turned it into a bit more of a contest against Sydney.
It's like old-fashioned footy, isn't it? One-on-one.
One-on-one. And Port do that. Port play one-on-one footy and force Sydney to kick long to a contest, which is not really how they want to play. If they can do that on Friday night, I'm giving them a chance.
All right, so watch the uncontested mark.
Yes, that's going to be the key.
One-on-one.
Excellent, terrific. All right, Kingy, you have come to Saturday night. Best team versus best coach.
Well, Chris Scott's recognised the best coach by his peers, and we all do that outside looking in. And what he's been able to do this year has been unbelievable. So I'm looking at the coach saying, what's he going to do this time? Because at the start of the final series, I was saying, well done, great effort. If you go out in straight sets, we're still going to say unbelievable achievement against the best team. And people say, oh, yeah, how do you say Brisbane are the best team? Well, they've drafted themselves 9 of their selected 23 last week inside the top 20 of the draft. Ashcroft, Fletcher, Wilmot, Lohman, Rayner, Bailey, Starcevich, McCluggage and Berry. They all played. 9. Almost half their team. How many do you reckon the Cats had?
1.
Holmes at pick 20. So sure, they've gone and got other players, but they've had to give up to get something. And if you go to free agents, they've both had a bit of love with the free agent side of things. So they are the best team in it. Make no mistake. So pound for pound, they should be able to get the job done if all other things are equal. But they're not equal against Chris Scott. This is what I keep coming back to. They're not equal. So the 2 biggest challenges this weekend for Chris Fagan and his crew are what do you do with Tom Stewart and what do you do with Jeremy Cameron? Because in preliminary finals, it's all about your point of difference. And these guys are their point of difference. Everyone's got a great stoppage player. And that's Dangerfield, that's Neil, that's whoever. Everyone's got a good ball user and a contested marker inside the forward 50. Not many have got what Jeremy Cameron brings. And if you let him get goal side like this is earlier in the year in a wet night, you pay a price. So the method is so critical to everything that goes on. How do you stop these guys? How do you work on holding space, or you're going one-on-one, are you getting pulled apart? What are you doing? So in the end, they get their looks because of who they are. They're elite talent, but they play it a little bit differently. How's Chris Scott going to set up Stewart? Is he going to be a centre bounce player that drops back? Is he just going to start behind the ball? Are they going to run with him? Are they going to put Archie to him and try and do what they did last weekend? So all these things go into the melting pot to get a result game day. But this is preliminary final. You get one look. And that's why you bring up the numbers before, 2 and 2. No second chances. This is it. It's cutthroat now. So then you go to the stoppages. And the stoppage game, historically, between these two has favoured Brisbane. They've got the 2-time Brownlow medalist in there, and they've been a very good team at winning clearances. And look at the scoreboard differential there. You can see +2 goals, +2 goals, +2 goals, and they won by a point at the start of the year. But Geelong are a different beast now. They are a different stoppage model than what they were 10, 12, 15 weeks ago. Dangerfield back in, rip, tear and bust. And these half-forwards that we keep talking about rolling up to the stoppage. So look at the damage they're able to inflict now. The last 6, 7 weeks of footy. Number 1 in the comp, if they win it, get it on the scoreboard. And it's a heavy toll. It's not a small margin, it's a heavy toll. And they're thereabouts with defending it, but they're miles in front of Brisbane in both facets.
What?
So if it's a stoppage game, strap yourself in.
It will be a part. One of the issue. Back to the first one. What do they do with Jeremy Cameron?
Well, that's we don't know. It's about performance. So we got to wait and see. This is the beauty of finals.
He's got to get a opponent on him, doesn't he?
Well, I don't know. Does he? Does he let him run up the field and pick him up on the way back? But I want to touch on just show you the stoppage game before we get into that discussion, because they do it different. The Cats, they bring their half forwards up and they put defenders in the spots they don't want to be. Starcevich, good player, really good. If that's inside the defensive 50, he's staying to him. But because in the midfield you can gamble a little bit, you can take a bit of a licence. Don't take it against Myers. Don't take it against Close. Don't get it wrong against Stengel, because they're coming up to get back, and Brisbane will go with them. This is the coaching mode we get to, right? We're talking about how do you pick apart your opponent? Well, they'll come up, so it'll be 3-on-3 behind this, and then whoosh, charge of the Light Brigade the other way. So what do you do now? Do you leave Cameron or stay with him? These are the decisions that are going to be made game day that we can't tell you today. But they'll be made in the cutthroat moment of a final, and you either get them right or you get them wrong, and you move on, and we go again. Same thing here, all up to get back. Dempsey's been a revelation. You know who's one of their best players the last 6 weeks is Manna. He's doing this like no other player in the competition. Of their top-rated players the last 6 weeks, Cameron, Dangerfield, Manna. Like, who would have said that? Who would have thought you'd get that sort of performance out of those guys? So it does come down to tactics and coaching in these games. It does. And I've heard you talk about it all week with Fags. The reality is there's going to be issues in this game. You've got to be able to put the fire out. They got lucky, not you get lucky, but they got away with one last week. If Hogan kicks one more goal, I guarantee the back page of the paper is how do you let Hogan do this, right? That's footy. That's our opinion outside looking in. He's got a different version of it, Chris, and we understand that. He can have that. But you deliver or you don't, and there are reasons. These 3 facets can't be the reason, or we'll be reviewing it again, like we do every other final and every other game. Don't get beaten by Cameron. What are you doing with Stewart? And what's happening at stoppages are the three keys for me.
So if Chris Fagan does really good in those facets and other facets...
They win.
Would you say that is an unbelievable coaching performance by Fag, if it plays out that way?
It's performance. We do this every week. We do it every week. You make out, look, I've got a vendetta against Chris Fagan.
I feel like you have.
But you said things the other night I've never said about Chris Fagan.
What was that?
You said that there's a narrative, effectively, that you're tactically short of the mark. You don't have the tactical nous of others.
No, that's been the narrative. I don't know. How could you deny that?
I've never said that.
No, I said you insinuated by saying
I'm happy for you to say what you want, right? But don't put words in my mouth to the coach.
No, I put in exactly what you said about the coaching performance last week. There was a standing 8 count and they're getting brained. That's what I said.
They did. 100% they did.
And then but then he came out and they won. Right? They come out and won. I was wondering why, when you've said that was a brilliant coaching performance by Chris Fagan to come back.
But you can coach brilliantly and lose, and you can coach poorly and win. But
you can coach brilliantly and win as well.
100% you can. But we're recognising the game at half-time, Robbo, in real time. What's happening with Zorko? His bloke's kicked 2 goals on him in 10 minutes. What's happening with Neil? He's getting tagged out of the game. We're talking about the game in real time. Like, we can't sit back and say, let's wait and see what happens and then give you a review. We've got to do it as it's been played.
No, I know that. And that's why I highlighted what you said at half-time and what a performance by Brisbane after the second half.
Terrific.
When it was such a stark performance by you guys identifying how the game was being played.
I thought Kingsley did a great job with his coaching last week, and I'm happy to sit on an island with that if no one else believes that. Chris wins the game and they move on. So be it.